If you've ever tried to play along with Strawberry Fields Forever, you may have noticed that it's not in concert pitch, it's not in a standard key centre, it's actually somewhere between A major and B flat major. At the beginning of the song, the key centre is about 43 cent above a normal A major. 50 cent would be exactly between A and B flat, so this is pretty close to being right down the middle. But later on in the song, the pitch is now shifted, so it's now only 12 cent below a normal B flat major. Wait, so did the Beatles actually write a song in a microtonal key? Well, no. This isn't the product of avant-garde songwriting. This microtonal key centre is actually the product of avant-garde sound editing. Now, it's not actually too uncommon to find songs that are not recorded to a standard key or what's called concert pitch. Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis is recorded 40 cent above a concert C major, and Friday I'm in Love by The Cure is 65 cent above a concert D major. Songs with non-standard key centres like these are usually the result of vari-speed. Vari-speed is when a tape is played back at a different speed, which in turn raises or lowers the pitch. With modern software, if you want to change the key or tempo of a piece of music you've already recorded, well, you can do that without much hassle and you can change them independently. But because the Beatles' only option for this was vari-speed, you could only change the pitch of the song if you were also going to change the tempo. If you increased the pitch, you would increase the tempo, and if you decreased the pitch, you would decrease the tempo. Now, vari-speed is the reason why Strawberry Fields Forever floats somewhere between the keys of A major and B flat major, but the story isn't as simple as the Beatles just vari-speeded the whole track to make it sound cool. The real reason that Strawberry Fields Forever is in A half sharp major is a much longer and much more interesting story. Strawberry Fields Forever took an unprecedented 55 hours of studio time to complete, and one of the reasons that it took so long is that the song went through various versions before John was happy with it. John's initial demo of Strawberry Fields was in the key of C major and had a far folkier sound to it than the version we know today.
No one I think is in my tree. It must be high or low.
The first studio version of the song was also recorded in the key of C major, but actually wound up being 55 cent flat, placing it between B and C major.
Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see.
This odd variation in tuning was seemingly caused by the band experimenting with tape speed to change the sound of John's vocal. As George Martin describes in this quote, typically, John asked for a speed change on his vocal recording, so when we overdubbed his vocal, we pumped up the tape frequency to 53 Hz instead of the normal 50 Hz. But the experiment didn't stop there. By take 4, the track was now at a slightly slower tempo, 90 BPM rather than take 1's 95 BPM, and the key had now been changed down to B flat major. The band were also still playing with tape speed at this point, so take 4 is actually 25 cent flat.
Down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
Take 7, recorded the next day, was also recorded in B flat major, but this time the tape speed effects had left it 57 cent flat, so in other words it was a 43 cent sharp A major.
Down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
After a week or so though, John decided that he wasn't happy with the direction the song was going in, and asked George Martin if they could completely re-record the song from scratch, which was the first time they'd ever done this. This new version was in the faster tempo of 111 BPM, and was in normal concert C major, suggesting that the band had now stopped experimenting with tape speed. The new version, known as Take 26, looked set to be the version of the song that would get released.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
As you can hear though, Take 26 is quite different from the version of Strawberry Fields that we actually got. See, John still wasn't satisfied with this Take 26 version, so after listening back to some of the old takes, he approached producer George Martin and studio engineer Jeff Emerick and asked them if they could take the first minute of Take 7 and connect it to the rest of Take 26, combining two different takes together. Listen to this clip of George Martin describing the conversation.
He came back to me and said, well, I like that, but I like the first one again as well. I said, well, you can't have them both. He said, why not? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, let's take the beginning of one and put the end of the other on. I said, well, there are only two things wrong with it. One is that they're in completely different keys and completely different tempos. He said, oh, you can fix it, you know what you like, and left me to it.
A few weeks previously, Martin and Emerick had pulled off a similar edit when they took the first 3 quarters of take 15 and connected them to the final quarter of take 24. But the difference with that edit was that the 2 takes had been in the same key and more or less the same tempo. Obviously this time they couldn't just splice take 7 and take 26 together without adjusting for tempo and key. Otherwise it would have sounded like this.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going.
They needed to find a way to bring these 2 takes into pretty much the same key and pretty much the same tempo. Now, like I mentioned previously, in 1966, if you wanted to edit the tempo of a piece of music, you would have to also adjust the key. But it turned out that this limitation actually worked in the Beatles' favour. See, they soon realised that the faster take 26 was in a higher key than the slower take 7. So if they slowed down take 26 and sped up take 7, then the 2 tempos and keys would, more or less, meet in the middle. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that there was one perfect solution which would put both takes into the exact same tempo and exact same key. Either the tempo or the key would have to be slightly off, and it seems that they prioritised matching the keys rather than matching the tempo. This is how they went about it. They started by slowing down take 26 by 11.5%, which brought the key down from C major to a 12th flat B flat major. So pretty much the same key now as take 7. 11.5 vari-speed though only brought the tempo of take 26 down to around 99 BPM, so it was still a bit faster than take 7. As for the other take 7, it does seem that they very subtly increased its tempo, but the increase is so slight that you can only really tell if you attempt to sync up the final master of Strawberry Fields with take 7, as you'll find that they'll drift out of time with each other. Ultimately, they managed to hide this jump from 91 to 99 BPM by placing the cut point at a moment where the music had already come to a natural pause. Have a listen.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
It's a pretty undetectable edit, right? And John Lennon certainly agreed. Listen to Emerick's account of the moment they first presented the edit to John. He listened carefully, head down, deep in concentration. I made a point of standing in front of the tape machine so that he couldn't see the splice go by. A few seconds after the edit flew past, Lennon lifted his head and a grin spread across his face. "Has it passed yet?" he asked. John absolutely loved what we had done. We played it over and over again that night, and at the conclusion each time, he'd turn to us and repeat the same 3 words. Brilliant, just brilliant. What makes this near seamless cut even more amazing is that Martin and Emerick were literally cutting the tape with a blade and then sticking it back together with sticky tape. So that's how Strawberry Fields Forever wound up being somewhere between the keys of A major and B flat major. The first minute of the track is a take in B flat that was vari-speeded down to be 57 flat. Then that was cut together with another take that was vari-speeded down from C major to be a 12 flat B flat. It's stories like this that go to show that the Beatles never would have fulfilled their creative potential if they didn't have an amazing team of engineers and producers around them to facilitate their crazy ideas. Now, one detail that I wanted to address before the end of the video is that some sources that discuss this story of Strawberry Fields Forever actually disagree on the keys that the different takes were in. As of 2017, both Take 26 and Take 7 have been publicly available, so the way I worked out the key is just using a chromatic tuner with those recordings. But some other sources have disagreed with the keys that I found. For example, in Ian MacDonald's Revolution in the Head, he describes the 2 takes as being a semitone apart in pitch. But even if you ignore that Take 7 is 57 flat, these 2 takes are a tone apart in key, not a semitone. Now, it's important to note that when Revolution in the Head was published, Take 26 was yet to be made publicly available. So I don't think MacDonald got this semitone figure by comparing the 2 takes. Instead, I think he sourced it from George Martin's book, All You Need Is Ears, in which Martin says, the slower version was a semitone flat compared with the faster one. And I think George Martin is actually saying here that the 2 takes need to be moved a semitone towards each other to meet in the middle. I might be wrong, of course, but based on the officially released takes, this seems to be the only solution. Unless of course Martin is misremembering the keys that the two takes were in. I'm not the only person though to describe the two takes as being a tone apart. Mark Cunningham, in his book Good Vibrations, A History of Record Production, also describes the two takes as being one tone apart. But regardless of exactly which two keys they were in, what is clear is that Martin and Emerick pulled off a real feat of music production when they spliced these two takes together to create the legendary and timeless Strawberry Fields Forever. Now, one bonus fact I discovered whilst researching this video is the reason why Strawberry Fields Forever fades out and then fades back in again. See, if we compare the very speeded version of Take 26 with the final version of Strawberry Fields, we can actually listen to the bit that was faded out. As you can hear, there are some timing issues there in the percussion parts. Now, the reason for the fade out and fade in is quite simple. George Martin wanted to get rid of this bit with the timing issues, but wanted to keep the bit at the end. And a massive thank you as always to everybody who supports me on Patreon, including the names you can see on screen right now, and Abigail Allen, Andre Sainz-Diaja, Andrew Brown, Austin Barrett, Austin Russell, Bob McKinstry, Brittany Parker, Cameron Allavaler, Chris Cabell, Christopher Ryan, David Lee Fish, David Rivers, Donald Howard, Dr. Darren Wicks, Elena Skorchenko, Esben Hansen, Eugene Leroy, Eyes, FD Hodor, Guillermo Latona, James Kao, Jay Kokensparger, Joe Watson, John Dye, Jonas Soderstrom, Justin Vigor, Lavender Mint Rose, Mark Height, Melody Composer Squared, Michael Vivian, Nancy Gillard, Nathan Lawrence, Paul Miller, Paul Pazel, Peter Dunphy, Piotr Chmielowski, Roger Clay, Sam Lynn, Scott Fenley, Sean Kennedy, Steve Daly, Stephen Lazaro, Tim Beaker, Trisha Adams, Tim Payne, Toot, Victor Levy, Vidad Flowers, Vladimir Kodakov, and Volti.